Less than a month after winning a gold medal in Paris, Paralympian archer Matt Stutzman came to Siouxland for the Missouri River Outdoor Expo. KTIV's Connor Trett has the story from Ponca.
Archery is one of those rare sports that it doesn't stereotype the athlete. So I can pick up a bow and I can shoot against the best in the world, and the bow doesn't care, neither does the competition.
Since 2011, Paralympian Matt Stutzman has hosted an archery showcase at the Missouri River Outdoor Expo in Ponca, Nebraska. Stutzman's fresh off winning a gold medal at the Paris Paralympic Games, but the journey he took to find the sport in the first place was anything but ordinary.
Couldn't find a job. This was in October of 2010, and I see a guy on TV with a bow, and I'm like, hey, I'm gonna do that. So I Googled how to teach an armless man how to shoot a bow, and there was nothing. So I had to self-teach myself how to do it. And I immediately fell in love with the fact that the bow didn't care that I had no arms, and that I could compete against everybody.
Stutzman has since competed in every Paralympics since 2012. He won a silver medal in London and gold in Paris. And in the off-season, he travels around the world hosting showcases.
Just a chance for me to grow kind of what the sports movement meant for me and make people educated on what people with physical disabilities can do. We're not just people that have no arms. We're hard workers. We like to chase dreams. We like to accomplish things as well. And so the education part is important for me.
But it all started in Ponca, Nebraska at the Outdoor Expo in 2011.
I really enjoyed showing people what I could do and talking about my story, and I really learned that a lot of people were getting motivated by it. And so that was one of the things that I felt, not just shooting bows, but was the talking to people. And so that kind of kicked off my whole speaking career. The doctors, when I was little, said it was going to cost millions of dollars to raise me. I wouldn't be able to do anything. But guess what? I can do it, right?
In Ponca, Nebraska, Connor Trett, KTIV News 4.